Здравейте, това е епизодът с връщането. The comeback.
Целият епизод че е на български.
Целият епизод че е на български. Мейсън успя да се
Meissen
подготви.
learned Bulgarian, so he can speak with you guys.
Yes. So we're gonna switch in English.
I'm here to translate.
Да.
Ще говорим на български.
Ще говорим на български, да, здравейте. Yeah. Връщаме се отново след дълъг vacation off, как се казва, не знам, стопич. Това е заради Жоро. Жоро е виновен. Жоро, кажи нещо в своя защита.
Честито на Жорката има дете.
Има дете и не е гледал епизода за това какво да правите, когато имате дете. Записвам в това студио с нас. С Сашо и Жоро, който не го е слушал явно тогава, както винаги. So we're gonna switch in English. Our special guest today is Meissen Fowler. Very glad to
Thank you for having time for our podcast.
It's really an honor, and also I'm really happy that you agree to have this. I know you're not a podcast guy. You actually
no, thank you so much for inviting me, man.
Yeah,
I love doing podcasts.
Yeah, but actually you declined me twice. I asked you twice, can we do
a
Zoom podcast? We're gonna fit it your schedule. I said no, I have to train. Kyle is pushing me, everything, and like before.
I didn't say that, did I?
No, you said you don't want to now because you're busy. But of course, you're not saying that you train because you don't train.
Exactly.
So really happy that we have you. You're gonna have two seminars in our academy. It's already past one, the GI seminar. And we can talk about it later as well. And today is the no-gi. So unfortunately, because it's not very pleasant to train with you, to be honest, we are having you
At least you weren't the uke for the techniques.
Yes, because that's why I'm inviting nowadays, and I'm trying to invite as much as possible heavyweights and super heavy teachers. So I can have Ivan feel my pain, not my pain, my pleasure during the years.
Yes, but just don't
because
invite
I was the guy who was every time the okay, so it's better to have him now. It's really funny.
My pleasure. Thank you for sparing me.
Yes. So it's gonna be mainly about you, of course, as our guest. So please share some thoughts about you. Present yourself. We're gonna talk about jiu-jitsu, of course, but most of the people are not familiar with your story, so you can share some introduction about yourself and your jiu-jitsu journey in general, and then we can go in particular and specific questions.
Yeah. Basically, I started watching the UFC when I was maybe 15, 16, and I was a huge fan. I became a big fan of Anderson Silva and all those guys that were fighting at the time, and that inspired me to want to be a UFC fighter. So that was my first introduction really into martial arts, was the UFC. And when I was 18, I finally decided to walk into an MMA gym. It was always on my mind, but I never actually went into the gym, you know?
18,
yeah. And you know, I was like every other 16, 17, 18-year-old boy at the time where I thought I was a badass dude and I could fight.
Typical American redneck.
Man, I was so delusional. And so now I understand. Like when I meet people that are like, yeah, bro, but it just takes one punch, bro. You know, those guys that think that they could just beat everyone else.
That's when they see red, joking about
they see red, exactly,
redneck,
those guys.
Because usually rednecks are probably they're nice people, but they usually act like they have
tough guys.
It's just the ego. It's just the ego, and they've just never experienced actually feeling what it feels like to do any type of live combat with someone who is a professional, whether it be boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. They've never experienced any type of live one-on-one combat with someone that knows what they're doing. It's just
and you don't think that street fights is enough?
It can be enough if you're doing a street fight against someone who knows what they're doing, which most guys that know what they're doing don't get in street fights. I used to get in a lot of street fights, but then once I started training, I stopped fighting on the street.
People actually don't know that up to 1 or 2 years ago, your Instagram handle was Meyson Fowler MMA. It wasn't BJJ.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned that to them, they're like, really? I didn't know he did MMA or whatever.
Yeah, that's why he started with how he actually entered a gym.
Yeah.
So you started with MMA.
When I walked into the gym, I asked them, I was like, hey.
Give me Mike Tyson.
No,
here.
I was like, hey, can you guys get me a fight in the UFC? And they're like, yeah, you have to train. And I was like, okay,
where was this gym?
It was a small gym in Fresno. It's called Thrive MMA. It's shut down now. But I was like, okay, if I train here, how long until I can fight in the UFC? Like I didn't I didn't know how it worked.
I want to become
amazing.
world champ.
This is
how
amazing.
much time
I've been listening some kind of same stories for so many years. Like some people coming into our academy. Of course, we are at the end of the world, but they come here and they said, I want to be a world champion. I said, okay, just train. Yeah, but I want to be a world champ. How long it's gonna take me? So it's probably part of the human nature, right?
Bobby tells them, you need to wash my car, and he's Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. But you know, Ivan, why he's a black belt? Because he's usually giving me
massages and stuff.
On my feet.
That's my special.
For the lunch and
exactly. You know, normal things.
Yeah.
You felt it. That's why I'm a black belt. You're old with me. You know that. That's
we are all black belts.
I'm doing things for
him. I had to wash Kyle's car so many times.
This is the first episode where all the guests and all the hosts are Kyle's black belt.
Oh yeah.
Yes, this is history.
It's an epic,
history in the making.
Moment. Yeah.
Okay, so when you enter the MMA gym, you start training how much? 1, 2 a month?
At that time, I was working. I was working for Pepsi, so I had pretty much a full-time job. So I would work from like 4 a.m. until maybe like noon or like 1 p.m.
But you were a student or no?
No, I didn't go to college. No.
Okay.
So I already graduated high school, barely graduated high school. And I was just working. I just had a job. And I wasn't really doing anything else. I stopped. I played rugby in high school. And at that point, I had stopped playing rugby. I would still work out at the gym, just lifting weights. But it was just, I was doing the same shit every day. And I felt like I wasn't working towards anything. I was in that place where a lot of kids are after high school, where they're kind of lost. You know, I didn't really have my purpose yet.
At what age they finish high school?
18.
18?
Yeah.
Okay.
You usually graduate.
Okay. All right. Yes. Here is the same. Yeah.
So at that point, most of the time, a lot of kids are going to college at that time, or they have some type of passion that they're working on. And then there's a lot of kids that are just like kind of stuck, right? Yeah. Lost. Yeah. So luckily I was still living with my parents, so I didn't have a lot of bills. But, I had my job, I had a car payment, stuff like that. So it's not like I could just quit my job, right? So I started training, and then it just got super dedicated, and 12 years later, here we are. Yeah, so at first I would work.
Yeah, but you when you switch from MMA to jiu-jitsu?
5 years later. 5 years later.
Why?
Yeah, so at first I was
Did you get the UFC contract?
No, I never got the UFC contract. But
that's why I didn't know you.
Now, hey, now I can tell people I'm a UFC athlete.
Of course, because you're fighting the UFC Fight Pass.
Because now I'm on Fight Pass, right? So it kind of comes full circle, right?
But you wanted to be in UFC because of the backs they are giving the fighters? Because now you have such back, you achieve your dream.
Yeah, I just wanted to fight.
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to be a fighter. That's it.
Okay, so in 5 years, what you actually achieved? But were just training MMA, or you were cross training?
Yeah, so I was training MMA. My first 6 months or so, I was just training no gi, but then I started training in the gi as well. We had gi jiu-jitsu in our gym, and the whole time, those whole 5 years that I was training for MMA, I was also training a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Who was the coach? Was he a black belt or he was?
My first coach was a purple belt.
Okay, yeah, exactly what I was thinking, that most of the even American cities and states, actually many people like 15, 10 to 15 years ago, they started with someone who wasn't black belt.
Yeah.
Probably this is slowly changing now, right?
Oh yeah, now it's tough. Like in most areas, if you're not a black belt, it's going to be hard to be a teacher because there's black belts everywhere. And people, even let's say a guy is a purple belt world champ, and then some other guy's a black belt, but he's
He's a
Yeah, the
casual,
recognition is
he's a
different.
casual guy. He doesn't really know high level jiu-jitsu. The purple belt world champ probably has a lot more knowledge and a lot more skill than the black belt, but 90% of people will go like, oh, he's a black belt, I want to train with him, you know?
Yes. Okay, so first 6 months was mainly no gi. Then you started training.
And then we got a gi guy that came into the gym. They hired a guy that was a brown belt. His name is Brian. And then eventually he got his black belt. And I worked with him for a long time. I ended up going, do you guys know who Josh Koscheck is?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So Josh Koscheck also owned a gym in Fresno. So basically that guy, Brian, he ended up getting his black belt. He gave me my blue belt. And then eventually, because I was at like a small gym, I didn't have a lot of training partners. He also taught at Koscheck's gym on and off. So he ended up, I ended up going over to Koscheck's gym through him.
Yeah, because you wanted the UFC.
Yeah, of course. And they had better, like they had a lot more high-level
Koscheck,
fighters.
just for the audience, Koscheck was in UFC.
Yeah,
but
he fought George St. Pierre for the title at one point.
Was he back then already in UFC or no?
Yeah, so
Not yet.
when I got there was like right around the time that he actually, like at the end of his UFC career, he kind of went on like a losing streak.
Yes.
And so I got there already after he had fought GSP, and when he was kind of on that downward skid in his career. That's around the time that I went there.
Yeah.
I've
yeah.
also
Koscheck
seen
is a
you in
very good
AKA, right?
wrestler, right?
He's a wrestler.
Yeah, so it was AKA at first, that gym, Dethrone, when it was first created, it was called AKA Fresno.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Koscheck opened that gym. And then eventually they changed the name to Dethrone.
Okay.
They took away the AKA name.
Okay. So, did you get some wins, tournaments, fights, amateur, professional during that 5-6 years of your MMA career?
Yeah, so I had...
And how it was, because people are actually not understanding. We all started with UFC. I've been to the first UFC in Europe. It was in Köln, Germany, and it was amazing event. But I think it was 99 as the number. You know, now it's like 300 or 200.
Almost 300. It's like
Yeah.
290 something.
At
Right
the
now.
end
So-
of the year, it's probably going to be at 300.
Okay, so I was at 99 number of UFC in Köln for first time in Europe, just as a fan. And I started watching UFC around, I think, 50 or 40. I watched all back to the beginning because there was nothing else you can watch in YouTube and in internet. But people don't get how actually MMA evolved as well, because it wasn't so easy like today, and UFC wasn't what is today. So it's like now the evaluation of UFC is like 13 billions. And back in the 90s and
They
back
bought
in
it
the 12
for a few million, I think.
They bought it for like 2 million.
2
I
million,
think.
something like that.
yeah, 2 or 3 millions. They bought it during that period of time I'm talking about. They bought it just in that period. I remember reading about it. I said, okay, this is very no. They bought it from Gracie's.
90s, yeah, they bought it in the 90s.
Yes,
for
but
2
the
million or
next time
something.
they bought it was during the 2008, 9, whatever. They bought it again, and it was like 2 or 3 billions.
They sold it.
They sold it,
Yeah.
and someone bought it.
Yeah. They sold to Endeavor,
Yes.
Yeah, but that was recently, I think.
WME.
No.
Not?
Yeah, it was
4 or
maybe-
5 years ago.
5 years
it
ago,
was
yeah.
5 billion.
Okay,
4
4
billion, 4.2
4
billion.
point
4 billion.
something,
Yeah,
yeah.
4 billion. But now it's like evaluation is about
Now
13.
it's like 13, yeah.
13. So it's like a huge industry, and it's off topic a little bit, but it's funny because one of our guys, Vladi, recently we were filming some video in the gym, and he's a cameraman, usually doing films. Like he's an operator in a main industry here, and he said the cameras people are making movies here in Buyana, they cost like 50,000-60,000, And UFC got like 100 of them.
Yeah,
So
I
the
bet.
industry is
Yeah,
crazy.
They have
Crazy.
a lot of money.
Yeah. So did you get some fights? How it was? Can you live from MMA as a young person as you were?
Yeah, so I started when I was 18. I stopped when I was 23. In that time period of 5 years, I had 6 amateur fights. That's when I was training at the first gym, and I won all those fights. I actually did like a tournament. There was a national tournament, and I actually won.
Okay.
So like
This
when
is a tournament or 6 fights? You mean like
it was a tournament.
Okay.
So I had 4 fights, and then
In
I
one
did
day.
a tournament. I did a tournament, but when I entered the tournament, I was already entering into the semifinals because there was a dropout.
Okay.
So I entered into the semifinals and I won 2 fights. So my last amateur fight was the finals of the national tournament. And then started training at Koscheck's gym. And basically the way that our training split was set up, we would do like the fight practice at noon. And then those were like the mandatory practices for the fighters, right? And then I would always come in at night and do the jiu-jitsu classes. And sometimes I would do 2 classes at night. So there was like a no-gi class and then a gi class. Okay. So some days I would do both, but it was tough even though I was
Were
young
you
at the
still
time.
working in Pepsi or
At
not?
that time I was just training full time.
Yeah.
I quit
but
my job.
How you were providing it for yourself?
So I just had my car. I actually gave my car to a family member because I didn't want to make the payments anymore. And then I was riding my bike to the gym. So I had no bills, you know.
Okay.
I had no bills, just food.
Okay.
So I saved a little bit.
Your
I saved,
parents were helping you as well, or
they were helping me by letting me live there, but my own expenses I paid for.
okay.
Like it was just basically food.
Okay.
I didn't pay for anything else. Not even haircuts. I used to just shave my head with the clippers, and I was really cheap, you know.
We all did that, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
We all did that.
And then I started teaching at the gym. It started with 1 class, 2 classes, 3 classes.
You were a blue belt or what?
That was once I was a purple belt. Once I was a purple belt, I started teaching.
Do they
Okay,
give blue
so-
belts to, the ability to make money like that back at that days?
Really, even now, if you're a blue belt, you can
can.
make a little bit, maybe just by being an assistant. Like you can be an assistant to the kids class or maybe an assistant to like the very fundamentals beginners class.
Okay.
But you're not going to make that much because you're just the assistant. Maybe like 10, 15 bucks a class, something like that.
Okay, so after the amateur fights, did you get some professional?
Yeah, I had two pro fights. Yeah.
True pro fights.
Yeah.
And why you stopped?
So I just
You saw the big money in jiu-jitsu, right?
no. I actually I just I had like a concussion after one of the training sessions. I didn't get knocked out or anything, but it was really weird. Like it was just a normal sparring day and I had a really bad headache after and I had a lot of concussion symptoms. And then like I couldn't train after that. Like I tried to train the next day and I was like getting dizzy. I don't know what happened because I didn't get knocked out or anything, but I think I just took a hit that rattled my brain for some reason. And I couldn't work out or train at all, not jiu-jitsu. I couldn't go running, couldn't do anything for almost 6 months. So that really scared me, you know, because at that time, like I didn't go to college. I didn't have a career. I didn't have a job. And all I was thinking about doing was fighting in MMA, right? But I was like, okay, well, what if I get hit wrong again and this happens again? Then, you know, what if it keeps happening? So that's why I decided that it would be smarter to pursue jiu-jitsu, not to compete, but I just wanted to keep on training and get my black belt. Because then if I get my black belt, then I could open a gym, right? So that was always my goal. I was just thinking like, man, I don't want to go back to work and get a normal job. So at least let me just keep training and get my black belt. That way I can have a business, you know?
Okay, so then you switch. You were purple belt. I think you have a world title at purple belt, right? With the gi.
Gi and no gi.
Gi and no gi. So how it started, like being so, let's say, professional in jiu-jitsu with gi, so you can win worlds, because worlds is not an easy thing. IBJJF is still the main tournament people want to prove, especially compared to not compare, but like especially in the gi. Okay, so how you decided to and how you prepare yourself to be able winning worlds?
Yeah, so just luckily the whole time that I was training to be an MMA fighter, I was still training in the gi, which a lot of people don't do, especially nowadays.
Do you think it's wrong, this one? Because you mentioned it, like Eddie Bravo style of if you want to be an MMA fighter, you shouldn't be training with gi at all.
Yeah, I think if I was to take a young kid that was like 16 or 18, you know, he has a lot of time to develop. So I would have him training in the gi, at least in the beginning, up to blue, purple belt. I do think that it is good for your no-gi. We still see a high percentage of the successful no-gi players today. Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, all those guys. The only exception really is Nicky Rod. But all those other guys, Felipe Pena, Kainan, they all at least started in the gi. You know, like Gordon and Craig don't train in the gi anymore that much. But Gordon was a black belt in the gi before he switched to all no-gi. Craig Jones used to always compete in the gi. There's an old video of Craig
Andy
Jones.
Murasaki made him change his mind, I think.
Yeah, there's a old video of Craig Jones competing against Marigali in the gi. You know, so all of those guys that are really good, now they only train no gi. So now a lot of the younger kids are like, oh well, I'm only going to train no gi. Yeah. But those guys trained all the way, most of them all the way up until black belt, and then decided to focus more on no gi.
And that's the most common thing people when they start doing jiu-jitsu talk about. When they get into the gym, they don't want to do anything with the gi. They just want to do no gi, and they're asking about what if. But actually, that's a really big. It's not a problem, but it's a big theme to talk about because they, in their mind, think that they're going to be doing it for self-defense, but MMA and self-defense are pretty different, I think.
100%.
Like, if they get grabbed by some guy who's, let's say he's been doing 2 years of judo, they can't move. I mean, so it's you should know some skills in the gi.
And also, I think it's when you train with the gi, you need your technique to be on point. Yeah. Otherwise, there is no escaping just by slippery or overpowering the positions. You just need to know how to move correctly in order to make the moves work. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it because even nowadays, many people think that ADCC champs are actually no-gi guys, and in the past, people were discussing that only judo guys were tough, judo or sambo wrestling were able to compete in ADCC, but actually the winners always have been people started training with the gi and jiu-jitsu and then eventually switching or proving the stats wrong. Okay, so you were still training with the gi and you decided to compete in worlds or how?
Yeah, so just at first, like that whole first 5 years that I was training, I was always training a lot in the gi. So I was better in the gi than most MMA fighters. Most MMA fighters suck in the gi, right?
Yeah.
So I was always training in the gi. Almost every night I would train in the gi, right? So then when I transitioned to competing more in jiu-jitsu, I wasn't really that behind. You know, most MMA fighters, if they decided I'm going to stop MMA and I'm going to do jiu-jitsu and I'm going to do jiu-jitsu in the gi, they would have a lot of
thing,
yeah, exactly. So, and I wasn't winning everything right away, but I remember within
you were competitive.
Yeah, I mean, within maybe like 6 months of quitting MMA, I was training jiu-jitsu full time, and I just was signing up to tournaments for fun. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to get all these sponsors and be a world champ and do seminars. I didn't even know that industry existed.
It wasn't existing back then.
It wasn't as big back then.
Yeah,
there was
only Budu Jake, Budu videos, and that's it. There wasn't flow grappling. There wasn't any prize awards for competitors. There wasn't super fights or fight pass or whatever. It was just, I think, grappling industries, Naga and IBJJF tournaments. Like main tournaments where you have to pay in order to participate.
Yeah.
And you pay not only for the tournament itself, you pay for going there, staying around the venue, and then you pay your yearly membership so you can pay for the tournament.
Yep.
Okay. So after you won the Worlds, what changed in your life? Like, do you think something changed?
Not really. I mean, at that time, the first thing that I did was the Pan Ams, right? So almost within like I think 6 months of transitioning to jiu-jitsu, I got second place in the Pan Ams. Almost won. I was winning the final, and I got caught in a submission. You know, so that was like the first thing, and then from there I got double gold in the Nogi Worlds. You know, I won the weight and the absolute, and
But
then
wait,
purple belt.
yeah, but shouldn't be, or you win purple belt gi next year after the no gi, because
Yeah, I
no
won
gi is
no-gi
usually in
first.
December.
Yeah, so I won the Nogi in December,
Okay.
weight and absolute, and then the next month.
So you didn't participate in that year. You lost the Pan Am final. You didn't participate in Worlds, or you participated and lost, because it's usually Pan Am's is March,
Yeah.
March, April, and then Worlds May, end of May, and then December is gi, no gi. It's the calendar is still like that.
Yeah, I didn't fight in the Worlds. I don't know why. I don't remember why. I think it could have been that I was injured. Yeah. I think I was injured in that time.
Okay.
I think I injured myself right after the Pans. I went to the Dallas Open, and I fought Gi and Nogi. In Gi, I won the division, and I got third in the absolute. And then Nogi, I won the division, and then in the absolute, I fought Cody Steele. We were all purple belts.
Okay.
Cody Steele,
Cody Steele is a black belt now and an MMA fighter.
yeah. And then
Very tough.
Yeah,
Really
he
tough,
won
yeah.
something
Yeah.
yesterday.
It was
a
or
really
the
good
day
match.
before that,
Yeah.
it was a really good match. And then the next, the final was with Mateus Gabriel.
Okay.
You know?
He's a world champion
World
in G,
champion, black belt world
lightweight.
champion, yeah.
Lightweight.
He's a light guy,
Checkmate.
yeah. And at a certain point in the match,
So it's a absolute. You fought them. In what
Yeah.
category you were competing back then?
in that tournament, I
Like
did
feather, right?
either heavy or
Rooster.
super heavy. Yeah,
Super heavy.
heavy or super heavy, one or the other. I
So
don't remember.
90 kilos, around 90 kilos.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. And you injured yourself.
I injured myself. I was so new still to jiu-jitsu. Like he put me in 50-50, and I didn't even know what 50-50 was. I never even did a class on 50-50 at that point. You know?
Cody.
No, Mateus.
Mateus.
And so at one point he swept me, and my foot was like stuck in 50-50, and I tried to just come up. And my
it's a
knee
normal technique, right?
my knee exploded.
People
man.
do it all the time.
My knee exploded. And then I passed his guard and took his back and choked him with my knee
Whoa.
completely fucked, you know?
So you had a surgery or no?
I didn't have surgery, but I was out for 6 months. Just
Okay.
physical therapy.
Okay.
And then when I came back, then I did Nogi Worlds, won the weight in absolute. And then the next month I won the Europeans, just weight. And then at that point, I already was like, in my town, I already was like the best guy there had ever been. No one from Fresno, my town, had ever won any type of IBJJF tournaments like that. So everyone already thought of me as like
The
the best
jiu-jitsu
guy
guy.
I
there.
think there
Yeah.
was a serious Fresno with some killing guys. I have to check, but probably it's not you.
Yeah.
Someone killing guys.
Someone was killing guys in Fresno.
Is
like
that
some-
why he's in Bulgaria now?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's possible. Yeah. It's
Okay,
possible.
so after you won,
So then by the time I won Worlds, it didn't really change that much.
you
know,
were
'cause
still teaching.
Yeah, I was teaching. I was doing private lessons.
No one knocks on your door and give you just
$1 million.
half
bucks.
million just to feel good.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was doing like a lot of privates and teaching a lot of classes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then when I won Worlds, then I got the brown belt.
From your first teacher or
Man, I got all my belts from different people. So the brown belt I got from one of my good friends. His name's Gabriel Fonseca. He's a Brazilian top team black belt. So at that time, they basically hired him to teach the jiu-jitsu program. So because Koscheck was the owner of the gym, right? But it was an MMA gym.
yes.
So there was different teachers teaching every program.
Okay.
So they would bring in a guy to teach like the jiu-jitsu program, you know?
Okay.
We're in Bulgaria. We're so new that I know people who have MMA gyms here, and they think that,
This is stupid.
they think that,
They will understand it's not.
they think that one guy should be teaching everything: boxing, wrestling,
Yeah, of course,
jiu-jitsu.
because everyone knows everything.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
are Bulgarians, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the moment you decided that you will follow a jiu-jitsu career, or much more, let's say,
Even
after the Worlds, you decided that this is your path, or you were still not sure?
even then, I still didn't really realize that I could make money just being an athlete, you know?
Okay. And after you became brown belt, you went to Kyle, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah.
Why you actually decided to do this, and how was the transition?
Yeah, so there was a couple things. One is I didn't really have that like any training partners. I had some good MMA fighters that were high level wrestlers, so that's how I started to develop my wrestling base. And then I had my coach basically, which he was smaller than me. He was a middleweight. Besides that, we didn't have any other guys really that were competing in jiu-jitsu. It was pretty much like a two-man team. So I already felt that I was outgrowing that gym a little bit. And then on top of that, my coach, Gabriel, he took a teaching job, or he wanted to open his own gym in Florida, right? He wasn't really happy with the way things were going in Fresno. He thought he wanted to be making more money. So he decided that he was going to go to Florida and open a gym. So he left, and he already was telling me like, hey man, you need to go to like a bigger school. And he told me that basically my three options were San Diego, like going to Atos, LA, going somewhere in LA, like Checkmat or something like that.
Anyway, I think they have a Kubrinis there, or no?
Yeah,
Cabrini
Cabrini
is
is there.
Yeah. But he was friends with like Lucas Leitch, and you know, he has like Jansen there and El Monstro, and they have a couple good guys there in Checkmat, La Habra. So he told me to talk maybe to Lucas Leitch, or he told me about Kyle as well. He told me Kyle Terres in San Jose, and he has like Yuri and all these guys. I didn't really know the competitors. Like I didn't know Yuri. I knew Kyle a little bit. Like I had heard his name, but I didn't know too much about him. And then he told me about Hudson. I didn't know Hudson. I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. But I had met a few guys that trained at Kyle's gym. I had met Hinato. I was actually meant to fight Hinato in a super fight, but it didn't end up happening. And I had met like Benji.
Who Renato? Who?
Hinato.
Not Laranja, I think.
No.
I don't know.
I know Renato, but it's
He used to live in the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I had met Benji and Dennis at a tournament.
Okay.
And I had met them. They had told me like, oh yeah, you should come and train. And I just ended up just going to Kyle's first out of all the places.
Because you knew people there or what?
Because I had met a couple of them.
Yeah.
I met them at Nogi Worlds. And actually, it's funny, Benji, there's a video I can show you after this.
And Benji Silva is Kyle's black belt as
Benji
well.
fought one of my teammates in MMA a long time ago when I first started training. And I was like cornering my teammate, and Benji choked him out and put him to sleep. It was when Benji was really young too. So I kind of already knew who Benji was too from that.
Okay.
You know, so I met some of the guys and talked to them. And then also San Jose was the closest out of the three cities, was the closest
To
one
Fresno.
to Fresno.
Okay.
It's like 2.5 hours. So there were a lot of factors. You know, my coach was leaving. All the MMA fighters, the whole fight team kind of disbanded. Everyone went to different places because the fight team kind of fell apart there. And one of my good friends, his name's Duran Nguyen. He had moved to San Jose to train at AKA as well.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
His YouTube channel, they post a lot of stuff from AKA wrestling and stuff.
Yeah. So then, you know, at first I started going there. And
Wasn't he in the UFC actually?
Yeah. He was in the UFC for a few fights.
Yeah.
So at first I started driving to go and stay with my friend Duran, and I would sleep on his floor, and I would go and train at Kyle's for like a few days. Like,
So you went to Kyle and said, "Hey, listen, I want to join your team." And what he said? Mhm.
no, the first
He's gonna be.
no, the first few
what you
times.
said?
No, the first few times I came in, I didn't even talk to Kyle. I
Yeah,
just
probably
came.
because he won't talk to you as well.
He was just like sitting on the mats like this. Like he looked so tired, and like he would just look at me. Then I'll go and shake his hand, and he would just be like, "That's it." He didn't pay any attention to me really. The first few times that I came in.
Yeah.
That's
And
the way
then-
it should be. That's the way it should
Yeah,
be.
yeah. Which is fine. Yeah, I wasn't tripping. You know,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was just there to train. I wasn't there to try to like.
So you
I'm
like
still washing his car, man. That's like 12 years later.
and
Yeah.
the massages. Don't forget the
Yeah,
massages.
massages.
So when you start training at Kyle's gym, do you feel that environment is good for you and it will help you?
Yeah, I mean, there was way better training there. I mean, right off the bat, when I first went there, the three main guys that were there were Jeremy Jackson, Benji, and Caniela.
But they weren't black belts back then. Purple and brown
Jeremy
belts.
was a black belt. Caniela and Benji were brown belts.
Ah, okay.
And Caniela was like around medium heavy. Benji was heavy. And then around that time, I was like heavy, super heavy.
Okay.
So they were close enough to my size, and there were other guys that were also competitors at that
And how
level.
you were preparing, training so many years by yourself and small team compared to those guys having the guidance of someone like Kyle? How was your level back then?
Yeah, I mean, at first I wouldn't even say I had like the guidance of Kyle. I was just going in and training, you know, because I was just going back and forth, and I would just come in. I wasn't under Kyle yet. I was on my own.
Yeah, no. I mean, to compare yourself and your level of jiu-jitsu and understanding jiu-jitsu compared to them, like just entering as a normal guy, you felt good, or you were.
What are these guys doing? What are those?
I mean,
guys?
I was an athlete, and I was like a scrapper, so I would just go in there and just scrap with them, like the tournament.
Okay.
But I didn't have the a really high understanding of jiu-jitsu like Kyle has and like his students have of using technique and leverage. I was just fighting, you know.
Okay.
So that's the biggest thing.
That's why you were beating most of the rolls, because you were already prepared mentally for the hard rolls.
Yeah, I was fighting.
Okay. So what changes and what time actually you decide, okay, I'm switching to Kyle for sure, and he actually accepted you?
Yeah, I was going back and forth, and I was talking to Nick. As I was talking to Nick at that time more than I was really talking to Kyle. I would just come, say hi to Kyle, show respect, and then, you know, when I was talking about things, I would talk with Nick. And right before we were training for the ADCC trials, and that's when I trained a bit with Yuri as well. And right before
which ADCC is this? 2008,
2019, the trials.
The trials, okay.
So this is 6 months after I got my brown belt.
Okay, and you started preparing yourself for the trials with them.
I didn't even prepare for the trials. I didn't even know what the trials were. I didn't know anything.
You won
about
the trials 2 times, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the first time.
So you won that trials, right? Or no?
Yeah, but I didn't know anything about the trials. I was just going back and forth in training, and maybe like 8 days before the trials.
Hey, listen, this weekend we have
There's
ADCC trials.
tournament.
Really? What's this?
No, Benji told me. Benji was like, yeah, man, I'm doing the trials. You should sign up. You should do it too. And I was like, okay. Like,
what is ADCC?
Where do I sign up? And Benji's like, you got to sign up today. Like, it's going to be the deadline.
You didn't know what the ADCC was or the trial was? No?
I didn't know what either was, really.
Whoa.
Yeah. I thought ADCC, I had heard of it, and I was like, oh, if you win the trials, you go to Abu Dhabi. Like, I didn't know, you know?
Yeah.
For sightseeing.
Yeah, I didn't know. So then I signed up for the trials on like the last day, and I trained for it for like 8 days, you know? But I was already training, like I was in good shape.
It was very, how to say, dark and kind of strange trials, actually.
2019.
I think they started filming. This is one of the first trials they started filming and like presenting more in flow.
Yeah, but man, it was really unorganized. They started like way late. All the systems went down. They had to do the brackets on paper.
Yeah, it was
crazy,
very shitty organization. You can see just from videos.
It was the biggest trials of all time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, every new time they do it, it's always the biggest.
Okay,
but
so you won the trials, and then you started preparing yourself.
I won the thing is, right before I left for the trials, Nick had offered me already to come there full time.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Before the trials.
Before the trials,
okay.
And offered me to live in the shop as well.
Okay.
Right before the trials. And then I won the trials. And then right after I won the trials, like...
You understood what winning the trials meant, or not? Did you get what winning it meant?
That was the first time that I was like, oh shit, like I beat like some pretty good black belts. And I was only a brown belt for 6 months at the time, you know?
And
I
that's
had,
the moment he bought a camera because of the sightseeing in Abu Dhabi.
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to Abu Dhabi.
I'm going to Abu Dhabi, put my head and the map.
Give
Yeah.
me the
Okay.
camel.
And unfortunately, the ADCC back then wasn't in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, no, that was the first year that I went to LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you been brown belt? 5 years? 4 years?
I was a brown belt for 3.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So that's the thing. A lot of people were like telling me like,
you should be
"Oh
a black
man,
belt,
you
right?
should be a black belt." But I got introduced already to the black belt level really early on into my brown belt. You know, within 6 months of my brown belt, I was doing the trials, which is a black belt level tournament.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, but you've been training for many years before that. So how long it took you to become a black belt?
I was a black belt in 10 years.
Okay.
But the first 5 years, I was doing MMA.
Okay.
And the blue belt and the purple belt, I got really fast. Like I probably got it too fast.
Okay.
Both were like around like a year and a half.
Okay.
And as jiu-jitsu competitors, most of the time they stay white belt and blue belt a little bit longer, you know.
Yeah, because this is the foundation.
Yeah,
actually,
but when he's doing MMA, that's like
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you're an MMA fighter. There's a lot of MMA fighters that get their black belt, but
Yeah.
they're not doing jiu-jitsu tournaments. So they don't have to compete at black belt.
yeah, we
they
have
just
a few.
the black belt.
We have a few in Bulgaria as well. First black belts in Bulgaria like this.
yeah, of course. Yeah,
They were promoted in
but
a strange way.
they didn't have anyone to match the level to.
Yeah, but
So,
it's as he said in the beginning, if you want to be a fighter, you never been in a fight, and then you think you're gonna be a big deal, and then you feel the real reason that then you understand you don't need that belt because there is no sense.
Yeah, but that's a marketing thing.
The belt
I
is just
think.
for marketing, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
have to compete at that
Especially
belt level.
Yes, I think so.
Those years you could say I'm a black belt and people probably are going to give you a contact someplace.
So, what you think is the change for you after you joined Kaio and started training with him regularly? What changes for you? The amount of people, the level of people. What you can say in that regard?
Yeah, the first thing is like Kaio taught me how to train, and he taught me like the correct volume of training.
What you mean how to train? Can you be more specific?
So with Kaio's style, let's say Kaio's technique is perfect. Let's just say it's perfect for the sake of argument. In order for Kaio to win and tap people out, he doesn't have to exert as much energy because he's being technically perfect, right? At that point, my technique wasn't up to par, and I was using a lot of my athleticism to win, right? So if I'm using pure athleticism to win every round, after the competition class, I was completely fried. And then he's like, okay, 3 hours, an hour after the competition class, 1 hour after, you come and teach kids class. And then you teach 2 kids classes, and then right after that, you're going to train again. And I was just like, I was completely fried. And a lot of it was just that I needed to catch up on technique so that I could be more efficient with my energy, right? So then I was able to, once I started to get better with my technique and learn jiu-jitsu, then I was able to train a lot more volume, you know? And then also just knowing how much is enough too. Like now, if I had to, I could run my own training camp without Kaio there if I had to, because you know he's traveling and stuff. So for the second ADCC trials, for example, I ran my own training camp and I had a good performance there because Kaio taught me how to train. So now I know how to train.
Okay, so you learned how to train. You started training more because Kaio is familiar that usually he's pushing his athletes to train a lot. But what actually was different, because I believe Kaio's jiu-jitsu is completely different than many teachers and many people are doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He changes the angles, he changes the approaches, and that's why probably so efficient in many ways. Recently you posted the sequence he was teaching in his online platform, and you doing it in tournament, and then yesterday you did it in Ivan.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean another Ivan.
Yeah.
So as Kyle is saying, you started learning the fundamental curriculum
Yeah.
after you understand it's working.
Yeah. Well, I started teaching a bit at Kyle's gym too. I was already teaching the kids classes, but then I started teaching one or two of the fundamentals classes. And for me, that's the best form of learning is if I'm teaching, and not only am I teaching, but Kyle makes it like 100% strict that I have to teach the curriculum, right? So
And you have to teach the curriculum in his way
exactly.
until
So-
you get it.
And Kyle will come in when you're teaching and he'll sit on the side and watch and make sure you're teaching it right.
Is
So
he interrupting you during the class?
No.
Okay.
He doesn't do that. But he just comes in, peeks, watches, and makes sure that I'm teaching the details and the concepts correctly.
Okay.
And so that would put a lot of pressure on me to make sure I was studying the technique beforehand so that I could teach it perfectly. And plus, man, like, you know, I'm a competitor. I'm a really, you know, I'm a pretty good black belt, right? And I have a standard for myself. And I have a bit of an ego as well, right? So imagine there's other black belts and brown belts under Kyle that are coming to my class. They know the curriculum. So they're going to know if I'm fucking up.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure I'm on point because I don't want to get embarrassed in front of those people or in front of Kyle.
Did Kyle examine you on the fundamental
What do you mean?
for the black belt?
No, I asked him before. I asked him, hey, professor, can I take the test for my black belt? And he's like this, Mason, your test is at the pyramid. You know? That's crazy, huh? I was
Yeah,
like,
because
damn,
the
all right.
pyramid is the place where
That's
the
where
worlds,
competitors
the
test.
the worlds are competing, and the event is usually held.
Actually, that reminded me. Can you explain for the audience what did Caio tell you when he gave you a black belt? There was a video of you guys. I think it was pretty touching. It was a nice moment
Yeah.
when he gave you the black belt and what he told
He gave you the
about
black
it.
belt after you won the world's brown belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he told me he was only going to give it to me if I got double gold, right?
Yes.
But then I got gold and silver. I got silver in the absolute, which at purple belt in the gi, I also got gold in the division and silver in the absolute. So I lost in the absolute, you know, in the final,
Yeah.
which sucks. It's better to lose in the first round of the
yeah,
absolute.
and also
than
you
to
got
lose in the
a
final,
gold
you know?
and a silver in the Pan Ams.
In the Pan Ams as well.
At brown.
So no gi worlds was the only time that I got the double gold.
Yeah, but what did he tell you when he gave you the belt?
And
I
you
don't
actually
remember.
you
You
pay
don't
him a lot,
remember?
so he can give you the black belt
Yeah, he told me,
without
Mason,
double gold.
Make sure that you leave the check for me for this belt, $1,000.
He charges $5,000.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Okay, so I think he said there is a short clip.
That's the clip I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but there is another clip which is very close to them. I think someone from their team did it, and Kyle said to him that he needs to. The belt is like not the goal, and the belt is already there, but he needs to still keep improving into the technique and knowing jiu-jitsu in general. It
Yeah,
wasn't like
sometimes I heard
it
him
wasn't
say-
something untypical for Kyle, to be honest, because usually he had that standards and he's very strict to them. So I really think it's very.
I remember
important.
he told him that he wanted it to be perfect for Mason, but even though it wasn't perfect, it was still a big achievement, something like that.
Yeah, because I think from Kyle's students, only Hudson was double gold brown belt. He won double gold brown belt.
In the worlds, in
The
the,
worlds,
gi. Yeah,
gi.
Yuri won double gold in no gi.
Yes, but no, I mean on brown belt, only Hudson was double gold, and even winning that, he didn't promoted him there. He promoted him after 2-3 weeks, after some small tournament where he injured the knee, if you remember.
Wow.
After-
yeah, because there was a tournament right after called.
Something. It was in a gym,
Yeah.
and they injured his knee.
It was right after the Worlds. It was like a week after.
Yes,
and it
and
was
he-
only for colored belts.
And yes, and his knee was injured very badly, but Hudson actually went through that pain because Kyle said it was completely destroyed. The knee was broken. And Hudson won. And after that, Kyle promoted him. Okay, so what is, you said there is one of the things that is different with training with Kyle is the way of training, right? But what else is, what can I add in that regard as well? I mean, let's say like this. Kyle is familiar with very precise technique and very strict to the technique itself. You know, technique conquers all is very famous, and he stick to it. I think still today he's strict on this. But we got a conversation with Yuri right after the
ADCC,
absolute win in ADCC, the third medal he won, and he said the camp was such a big hell for everyone who was competing, you, Yuri, and the other guys who were helping. So can you add in that regard, what is to train with Kyle Terra? What you think is the difference in yourself, and what
does he expect from them?
What is like a regular camp, for example, with Professor Kyle Terra? How can you describe it? How many hours a day? How often people train? How often?
Yeah, it's not just about the hours a day too. It's just he always sets up the training in a way that's challenging. So like I can just give one example is if you say that, let's say Yuri's not there and Hudson isn't there. Let's say I'm the best guy at practice that day. Then instead of, a lot of people will just do like, all right, we're going to do 5-minute rounds today, or like, all right, we're going to do 20-minute rounds today, or 10-minute rounds. And then you get a partner, and then everyone just trains, right? But if someone's competing, like if I'm competing, for example, then let's say I'm doing a 10-minute match, then instead of just having one partner, he'll give me 2 partners, right? And then I'll go with the first guy for 2.5 minutes, and then 2.5 minutes, and then 2.5 minutes, and then 2.5 minutes. So you two are basically switching off on me, right? And then
resting.
And then each 2.5 minutes, I have to get a submission. If I don't get a submission, then I lose that round. So it's a possible 4 rounds that I could lose. So it's me versus you two, right? And then at the end, we count up whoever lost, and you have to do sit-ups or push-ups or something like that. So he gives goals for the training, marks that I have to hit. That way, man, jiu-jitsu is a lazy sport. If I go for 10 minutes, then I can just like, I tap you one time in 10 minutes, and it's just being lazy. But if you have goals, especially if I'm doing a sub-only tournament, then you have to give those goals of submissions as well. So that way I'm always working towards a submission, and we're just going to get more work done in the time. So he sets goals for the training, and it makes the training a lot more challenging.
How many hours you train for a regular competition camp?
It depends, man. It depends. Like on average, 2.5 to 3 hours a day.
Straight or with separate?
No, two practices.
Okay.
But I'm counting like lifting and cardio. I'm counting that as well in the time, you know. So
but
let's say
3 hours is not so much. I think it's more.
No, 3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours, yeah.
But you're talking only about training, which in jiu-jitsu aspect means sparring, because no one is saying training when they're drilling.
No,
I think Brazilians only do that.
No, that's part of the training. Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of the practice, the time.
Okay.
But when the intensity is really high, then you can't like. I think when people say they train 5 hours a day, I think they're lying, or they're just bullshitting the training.
Maybe they do it for some period of time, but then they fuck up.
Or like go and lift weights. Go and lift weights for 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then let me see your workout.
In 2 months.
No, let me sit and watch you work out in those 5 hours. You're not going to be going to failure and doing supersets. You're just going to be bullshitting your sets.
Lightweight, baby.
So
like Ronnie, right?
Man, if you're going at a high intensity, I think like an hour and a half of live training at a high intensity, that's already like pushing it. So then you add the drilling and the lifting and stuff on top of that, man, you're gonna be at like I think 3 hours a day tops. But I'm also 30 years old and I'm a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So it could be different. If you're an 18-year-old kid that's 120 pounds, you know, you can probably do a little bit more than that.
And you should do, because the stage nowadays is much harder, and the popularity is bigger, so you have to train more.
But you have to train in the most efficient way too. You could train 8 hours a day, but if you're bullshitting the training, then you're not going to learn anything. You have to be with the right coach. You have to be with the right team. You have to have the right people surrounding you. You have to be working on the right techniques.
Okay.
You know?
So when you're training with Caio, is it, of course, there is a huge way difference, right? So how you train with him? I've seen some videos that you're throwing, injuring him, like a
In
normal
Instagram.
like a normal regular things. But in general, how you train with black belt in that level, and what you think is the best way? Because I'm asking this not because we are at the level of Caio or we want to compare ourselves to him, but we are also teaching and training regularly, and we're trying to train it with as many people as we can, but we can't train on high intensity all the time, right? Because you have so many hours per day, so many things to do. So what is the best approach for a student to train with his teacher, and in that regard, professor?
Yeah, up until maybe 2 years ago, we would train like pretty hard. Like I would be going probably 100% with him, I think, if I can remember. But he's been dealing with that hip injury for, it seems like it's been a long time that he's been dealing with it. So it's like the last thing that I want to do is injure him, right? I'm twice his size, obviously. So in the last 2 years, we've trained, but it is at a little bit of a different level. It's more of a technical training. We still do go hard, but I try my best not to like do some crazy movement because he's had that hip injury, and he has like, I could tell he's in pain. Like there's times that maybe I don't have a lot of training partners there and he's in pain, but he'll still train with me because he wants me to win the competition, you know? Or he'll go to a competition with me and he like can barely walk, his hip is so bad, but then he'll help me warm up for the competition still, you know? So I have to be thankful in that regard. And it's like, I'm not in that point. I'm lucky to be training with him, and I'm just trying to pick things up that he's doing. So I'll go and do one move and then try to see how he's going to counter it and things like that. So in the last probably 2 years, we've been training a lot more technically, and I've been training with him more so to learn, you know. But now he just had surgery, so it's going to be a long time for him to rehab it. So now I'm interested to see when he comes back from that injury, because Kyle's a really competitive guy, you know. So I could see him coming back from the injury and, you know, getting back in really good shape and coming to like kill everyone like how he used to before he was hurt, you know. I could definitely see that happening.
How you can compare that kind of training with Yuri, for example?
Yeah, right now, because Yuri's still an athlete, right? So me and Yuri, when we're training, is more of a fight, you know. It's definitely more of a fight. I'm not trying to like watch. I'm not going to be like, oh, let me see how Yuri passes this way. Like we're both really competitive, and we both don't like to lose. So me and Yuri's definitely more of a fight. So that's what I would say is anytime if I'm able to train with Kyle, I'm always just like trying to pick something up. Every round, I feel like every round I do with him, I could pick something up that he does.
Yeah, his style is very different.
And you can learn a lot just with training with him too. There's a lot of things I learned that he does just from training with him that I would have never picked up from even the curriculum or technique or anything like that, because it's different if you see it happen right in front of you.
Yeah.
You know?
So is he correcting your how to say your moves while watching on the side, or he's just watching and then he's giving you things to drill? How is actually his approach in that regard? How he's making you learn? Because it's not only yelling at you, like, I'll do this and do that, and he explaining why, but how you keep on that improvement after that.
The two most things that I've improved on since going to CTA, the two things that have helped me improve the most, one is just having him structure my training. So I'm improving through the live training, right? Like I said, how he sets it up, like Shark Tanks or whatever. And the other one is from teaching the fundamentals curriculum. So I think like probably like 75 to 90% of what I've learned from Kyle, I've learned from his videos online.
Yeah.
You know, probably 75 to 90% because I have to teach his techniques, and all the techniques have really good concepts in them that have improved my jiu-jitsu. And then the other 25% or whatever, I've learned from either training with him or working with him face to face. You know, because there is still a lot of stuff that he's shown me face to face that maybe he doesn't have on the curriculum or he hasn't posted a video for. So I have learned some stuff from that. But like most of what I learned just comes from the curriculum, man. That's why even training with you guys, I see you guys using the curriculum. Like I know you guys teach the curriculum. A lot of the affiliates don't teach the curriculum. They just are affiliated and they just teach whatever, right? I see it. Like I see it in their jiu-jitsu. But with you guys, I could see a lot of the curriculum coming out.
Yeah,
You know?
actually, it was funny because yesterday I did at least 2 moves with you that actually the curriculum saved me. And I wasn't sure. I was hoping to work because otherwise it was a mess, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
It is funny though, like I can go all around the world and people that have trained with Kyle, I can tell if they've trained with Kyle.
yeah,
They do certain things that no one else has done. I swear to God, if someone has trained with Kyle, I can tell right away. That's crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
it's
it's
weird.
very strange.
Crazy.
It's very strange.
Actually, that has a lot of logic, you know.
But
Especially
how
when
is
he
how is
feels it.
actually he learning? What you think? I asked him because he was here. We did a seminar, podcast seminar and podcast with him.
The same thing.
Same thing. But how you think he's learning? Because he's not drilling. He has no time. He's actually drilling during a live sparring. But how you think he catches the even the new style of jiu-jitsu and new techniques?
He watches a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
And
he
does
watches every
drill.
day.
He does drill
Drill?
sometimes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
he was
he's
still
drilling.
drilling.
He's not drilling with heavyweights, right?
No, he will come in and drill in comp class or, you know, he's always revising the curriculum as well, adding things, taking things out. And then apart from the curriculum, he still does add new videos to Kyle Terra online quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think he's just constantly watching jiu-jitsu, trying to see what new stuff people are doing. And then from there, he does drill and try to figure it out. And then that way he can stay relevant and
You know
modern.
that one of the biggest users of Kyle Terra online is Bulgaria.
Really?
Yes.
From all the students at your academy?
Yeah, because I think it's very good for people to learn, and it actually helps not only us, but actually it helps them a lot.
Yeah, that was a big battle for Bobby and Vladi in the beginning, because people thought that when they introduced the curriculum, people couldn't get that that's the base of a lot of the movements that you're going to have to do after.
Exactly.
They think that what you're showing them in the curriculum is the only way to do jiu-jitsu. And there was a lot of, but what if the guy does a la la la, you know? They didn't get that was the base. And after that, you can sort of branch away with the techniques.
I hate those what if questions. Like, just shut up and do the move, man.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was actually it was a battle, and I think still is going on, but not so big, you know, like a battle, because you have to think about this. We've been following. Actually, we didn't follow anything. We were just watching something that we are interested in, and we just teach that.
Yeah, yeah.
But people are not. You ask them, show me armbar from guard, and like 10 different people are showing 10 different ways.
Exactly.
And you can say, oh, okay, it's working. Yeah, that's
Sometimes
good.
it happens,
yes,
sometimes not.
Yeah, it's normal way of I think academies are doing. And then we started pushing them to do it in that way, and this is the only way you have to do it. But I don't like this. Okay, you don't like it, but I don't care, because this is the way. And actually we learned it in a hard way as well, because we joined CTA when we were brown belts, me and Vlad. And Kyle said, listen, and we were already 2 years as brown belts. And he said, I don't care how many years you've been brown belt, there is requirements for you being in CTA and becoming eventually a black belt or any other core belts. So you have to wait at least 2 years or certain amount of hours. And we said, okay, we don't care about the belt. We're gonna do it. And first year he came, he showed some techniques. I still remember he showed the half guard, fundamental half guard techniques of pushing the shin and getting to underhook, and then clearing the shoulder with your clearing the overhook with your shoulder and taking the back. That was the first class he showed, and he didn't say anything about the fundamental. He just showed this, and that's it. And then next year he came and he said, "Are you ready?" I said, "About what?" He said, "I'm gonna test you." And we said, oh fuck, I mean, we didn't expect that, because he didn't say we have to be tested on the fundamental. He just said you have to.
The other thing about tests, maybe we should talk about tests now.
Yeah, I will mention it, but then after we did the test, we understand in that moment, I actually understood back then when I'm thinking about it, that I don't know the fundamental curriculum. I don't know it so good. I know some kind of moves, and I was watching, like for instance, side control escapes. Oh, I know half guard side control escapes, so I'm just like moving the video fast, and I said, I know this, so I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
And then he asked me on side control escape, and I did something so stupid if I think about it today. And he said, yeah, it's gonna work, but against someone who's not good. So you have to do it in that way and that way and that way. And he pushed us in very, I can say, normal way. We just wasn't smart enough to follow in the beginning. We weren't understanding the reasons. And after that, we started that battle, Ivan said, that we have to push people to do it. And I think it pays off. Now it's really paying off.
But you guys didn't have that pressure. See, that's what I'm saying was so important for me, that I was expected to teach the curriculum, and I had Kyle coming and watching me. That's why, because I would have done the same thing. I would have fast forwarded the videos. Man, I used to think when I first came to CTA, I used to think, man, he's just over explaining everything. Why is he talking so much about, like, doing
Give
a rear
me the
naked
sparring.
choke?
Give me the sparring.
The video, for example, the video of the rear naked choke, the one that I posted yesterday, I clearly remember watching that video, and he's like, okay, and then you have to break this grip, and then you have to put it like this, and then you grab the, and I'm like, oh my God, bro.
Why
like,
can't I just slap
just
it
go
on?
over the neck and smash the guy's face? Like, why are you talking so much about this? It's so easy. And then I taught the class, and I over-explained it just like he did. And then in the next week or two, when I was in live training, I was doing every single step, and I used every single thing that he over-explained, and it worked perfectly. And then I was like, oh my God, man. He's not over-explaining it. He's explaining how it's going to work on a black belt. It's a different level of jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah, that's we have this issue very often. There are some people who are complaining that we are explaining too much the technique, and then they're like getting dry, or they're bored, they're getting tired, or they will lose the warm-up moment, you know. I said, yeah, but you're not supposed to compete on every class. We have such weeks that we spar mainly, and we have technical weeks that we teach mainly, and you did a very small amount of sparring if you want to go, because you can stay after and keep training. Okay, so I think it's very important that Ivan mentioned this. What you think about testing? Should people be tested, and why? Do you think this is
also maybe this should be the question, because we're looking at from our point of view. When you don't have, like in the States, every gym has 10 competitive black belts. We're sort of, in the whole country, there are like 10 to maybe 15 black belts. I don't know. It's still a really new sport, and people are doing a lot of stuff because they have YouTube access. And the
And they're not
testing,
mainly of those black belts are not following any curriculum. I mean, that's
so
really
you can just
important.
show whatever, and people think that in order for them to get good at the sport, they need to know every reverse de la riva, 50-50 spider sweep and stuff, and they can't imagine that this can be like made into like we said, into a base. After that, you can get better. Because you have to ask these people, hey, show me the side control escapes that you do in training. And people say like, oh, well, sometimes I get the buggy choke from here. And you're like, okay, but that's not, how you can maintain your progress at the blue belt level, especially with the gi,
Yeah.
So can you talk about what you think about testing when the what's it called? The pool is not as big and people are, trying to get good, and someone has to put frames in the
Yeah,
spot.
I think testing is the better thing to do. When I open a gym, because I've thought about this before, I don't know if I'm gonna have testing or not, just because it's a lot of work, right? Like if you have
It's a lot of work.
if you have 40 students that you're thinking about promoting, or even 20, and each test is an hour, then that's an extra 20 hours of work to do before the promotion, right? So I do think it's the best way to do promotions. But with that being said, that doesn't mean that I am 100% sure I'm going to do it or not. I would like to, but I'm not 100% sure. You should though, right? Because if not, I mean, what's your promotion going to be based on? Not everyone competes.
How you feel, probably. How you feel about the
It's
guy.
gonna be.
What if
There
he only
is
goes
no-
to the
there
6
is
a.m.
no
class
standard.
and I
There-
don't teach the 6 a.m. class? Then I don't know
Exactly.
how the guy's doing. So then someone else is going to tell me when they're ready to promote. But then I'm going to promote him. What if he's not up to my standard?
Exactly.
You know?
There is no standard in that way.
So it should be a test. It's probably the best way to do things.
Also, it's like a free
private.
lesson.
Yeah,
Free
yeah.
private for that guy.
So, what you think is necessary, especially for younger generation nowadays, to become competitive and to stay in highest level, like you're doing nowadays? You won Europeans, you won Pan Ams, not Pan Ams, Brazilian nationals. You won 2 ADCC trials, which is one of the hardest tournaments so far. And you've been 2 times in ADCC Worlds. And many other championship you won or super fights you won against big names. But just say your opinion about highest level, how you're going to stay there and how long you plan to stay there, and also what is necessary for the younger generation to get there.
Just being consistent, like going back to the training 8 hours a day thing. Like if a lot of kids, man, if they're training 8 hours a day, they might just get burnt out and quit after 1 year, So just train in a way, you have to always be pushing yourself, but at the same time, I didn't really start making money in jiu-jitsu until maybe 3 years ago. So it took me 9 years to start making money in jiu-jitsu. So just stay consistent, surround yourself with the right people, and then try to always just keep evolving as well,
What percentage do you think for the kids should be having fun? Because they are kids also.
I think they should have all of them fun.
But they have to
Or you think
they
about
have to enjoy
the kids, they have to enjoy it.
they have to enjoy getting better at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That has to be fun to them.
why we talked about this coming here. Why you think so many kids nowadays are getting professional at so young years of age? Like I can see kids
Gray
at
belts at
gray
LJ
belts doing unbelievable
Triangles from X-Guard.
kind of techniques, which is I don't think they will use in competition very soon, but in the same time they're doing like black belts or better. If I compare, let's say like this, if I compare the kids we are talking about, like the gray or yellow belts that are showing techniques in internet, to the IBJJF recent video about what is forbidden and what is allowed in IBJJF
black belts
kids
there.
tournament. 2 black belts are showing the techniques. It's a disaster. I mean, it's the worst video ever. So the gray belts, like 7, 8 years old kids, are doing much better techniques than the black
Yeah,
belts.
it could just be too like I'm sure the guys were probably older.
Yeah,
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
but
not smooth
we are
because they're
not
older
But you're
guys.
still
we are not
putting
judging.
them-
I'm saying that the level of those kids is very high at very little age. So how that changed and why you think so many kids are getting involved in this industry so early? There is no such amount of such big amount of money for everyone. So it and also when you're 8 years old, it shouldn't be your goal. I want to be rich from jiu-jitsu because you're gonna.
No, they have to just enjoy it. Yeah, but I think just now because the sport's growing exponentially, I think a lot of the parents are seeing like if the sport's this big now, then in 10 or 15 more years, whenever the kids are grown up, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the sport. So they're really pushing their kids now so that they have that opportunity in the future.
Okay, so this is parents' problem probably, or parents think.
Yeah, I think the parents are pushing the kids more. And then also like, I mean, it depends on which age you're talking about. If you're talking about 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, those kids, once they start getting into high school and then they see that they can get likes and shares and stuff from social media, then they're going to kind of get that addiction too, right?
Okay.
Once they start
You,
getting the
you think
attention.
that
and stuff.
pushes them?
For sure, yeah. If a young 13-year-old boy is in high school and he's getting a lot of followers and stuff, and he wants to be popular, and then kids think he's cool at school, and then he could start like trying to get girls,
influencer,
you know,
influencer stuff.
not influencer, but just being like popular and having attention,
Being
and
good
like,
at something.
cool, yeah, being good at something.
Okay.
Okay, Mason, we have 2 questions more, and then I guess we have to quit.
Yes.
So,
We are very,
what do you
very
think about the? So you're already a ADCC vet. You're a world champ in the gi, in
Brown and purple.
Brown and purple, yeah.
Yeah, color belts.
What do you think about the current talk, which people say that the gi is lacking behind and the no gi is taking over? Do you see that as a problem? Do you see that as something that's going on mainly in the States? How do you think about that?
I think the gi is doing better than ever, but not as much as a spectator sport.
Okay.
And
There's
what do you
more
got?
there's more money being made in the gi right now, for sure.
Why you think so?
Because
You mean competition wise?
there's more people competing in the gi. The gi's making more money than no gi.
Do you think that will change? People will stop going
But
to gi?
I don't
more
think so.
money are made by promoters. You think? You talk like IBJJF is making more money, yes,
Yes.
but in general, competitors are not.
How many people percentage wise, how many people do you think compete gi and compete no gi?
I think gi is more.
More
Me
like
too,
75, 25. So
25%? You think 25%?
I think so. Or the people that are doing no gi, a lot of them,
It's safer. More
they
people
mainly
are
do the
training
gi.
gi.
Yeah, there's more older people doing gi. There's more kids doing gi. So gi is still alive, but no gi has taken over as a spectator sport. So like the UFC Fight Pass,
Different
the
industries.
Who's Number One. Yeah, it's a different industry. But the gi is still going to be super popular. Like for anyone that's thinking about opening a gym, I think, man, if you offer gi and no gi, your gym will do much better than if you just offer
Only
no gi.
no gi.
Unless you're Craig Jones, you know? If you're some super famous guy and people are going to travel from all over to come and train with you, then go ahead and open a no-gi gym. But for the most part, man, like if you want to run a tournament or if you want to open an academy, then gi is the way to go. If you want to be a full-time competitor, then, you might want to go to no-gi.
What do you think? Do you think about just like being an overall jiu-jitsu guy or a combat sports?
No, yeah, I think it's good. I think
Enthusiast.
it's still good to do gi and no gi. I think it's good. I'm now, like I've won the 2 major tournaments in the gi now. So now I think I'm going to focus on just doing no gi from here on out. I'm 30 years old. I think I have 1 to 2 years left that I want to be an athlete, So I want to just focus more on super fights and ADCC and things of that nature. But I am really happy that Kyle pushed, because I wanted to go into just doing no gi like 2-3 years ago. But, Kyle really pushed me to keep on training in the gi and competing at least once or twice a year in the gi. And I'm glad because now I have two of the biggest tournaments in the world. I have one.
In Brazilian nationals, not many Americans won.
Yeah, I was the third American ever to win that. So now when I do decide that it's time to open a gym and I'm offering gi, then I'm legitimate gi and no gi.
Yeah. So you already mentioned Craig. The last thing people want to know, because people have asked me, like at least 10 people ask me, can you ask what did you do to Craig to tap him twice in the same position? And people didn't get what's happening there.
Yeah, people ask me sometimes to teach at seminars, like, hey, can you teach the thing you did to Craig? But I'm just like, man, like, I just put the body triangle and I just squeezed as hard as I could.
Yesterday I asked you when you were on my back and you locked it. I was like, please don't do the Craig Jones stuff because my back.
No, it does
already
work though. I've actually had someone tap me to that before. So it does, man, it sucks.
So it's basically a spinal twist
Your
lock.
back and your neck, yeah. Your back and your neck.
Yeah, but it's a dominant position, so don't let the people
sure.
be in that position because
It was a bit different. I think the first time you had an over-under, the second time...
the first time I was just kind of cranking on his face, and then the second time I had a seatbelt.
Yeah, because once he was like sideways and you were twisting him this way, right? Okay, so we should try it with someone like a white belt or something.
Yeah, of course, white belt, blue belts. Where is George? Sure, give it to me. Okay, so I think we are ending. Actually, I never heard your story in that way, like the stages, and I think it's very, very interesting how actually one kid starting with some ambitions and then move through the way, because it's different than nowadays people are seeing in Instagram. It's not the same way. You see Tainan, Koabate, some very good kids in jiu-jitsu, but their story is not the same. I mean, it's completely different. And also training with world champions is not easy, as we can say. My last question is how you, just to give as a closeout moment, give your advice to people who start training jiu-jitsu. They're like white, blue, purple belts. They're not competitors. They're like hobbyists. And how should they train in order to keep them in jiu-jitsu longer? Because I can see many people trying to kill themselves too much during training.
And they're not pros.
Yeah, and they're not pros. And then they can't be in seminars. They can't be on classes. So what you think is the best advice?
Every single person is different. Every single person.
Yeah, for sure. But mainly like we can say that every jiu-jitsu technique is different, but the curriculum should be done in that way. So it's like a standard, like a best standard, as we can say.
Yeah, but someone, if they don't want to be a competitor, but they're 18 years old and they want to train 2 classes a day every day, then I would say go ahead. But if someone's like 50 and they want to train 2 classes a day every day, then it's not going to last, right? So
they shouldn't be stupid. That's what you're saying.
you have to train. You have to train in a way that you can train all year for 10 years. So whether that's 1 class a day or 2 classes a week, whatever that is, that should be your goal.
So being consistent should be the goal.
Do you think the black belt is the end nowadays? Like you being a black belt, what you think is, because you said
everyone, it's different for everyone.
Yeah, but you said 10 years, then it means that everyone should stop at 10 years. You understand what I mean? No.
Did you mean like learning wise or what?
Yeah, learning, training, keeping in jiu-jitsu. What you think is the should be the goal in someone jiu-jitsu path, it's not the black belt, right? Because if you get the black belt, it's not enough. So do you think the black belt is the end? How are you gonna proceed that kind of thinking to your future students?
Man, people say the black belt's the beginning, right? But it's just different for everyone. It's some guy that's 50.
For me, it's the end.
No, some guy that's 50 years old, it's like he trains for 10 years, he gets his black belt when he's 60, then it's like he's not going to keep getting better, like.
I think people say that because the average guy starts to understand jiu-jitsu right about black belt.
Yeah, the average guy
You
trains
guys-
for like 6 months and quits,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
then if you can make it to black belt, then you already lasted a lot longer than everyone else. Ideally, as you get older, like you're 40 years old, you're a black belt. You've been training at the same gym with the same teacher for 10 years. Like you're probably not going to learn that much else from that guy. So what are you going to do? Go and move to Kyle's gym and start over new?
At 50, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. The goal is to just
Enjoy it.
keep jiu-jitsu in your life and enjoy it, like especially at that age. Like I can imagine myself when I'm 40, I'm not going to be training every day and trying to get better. I'm just going to train like once or twice a week to stay in shape and train with my students and
Have fun with everyone.
yeah. So it's a very difficult question because
I know. I mean, just it's open. It's
every single person that answers
probably
different.
after 10 years, your answer will be different.
After he has kids, probably it's going to be
Yeah, it's
as
different.
well.
I can say in my life is also every year is a different answer to this question.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying to see myself training as old, and I'm trying to see what's the motivation. For instance, yesterday I saw a video of Jean-Jacques Machado doing some kind of street fitness, and I was thinking how those people are keeping themselves in jiu-jitsu. Of course, it's work and they provide for their families, but it's not only this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not only this. You can do many other things and provide for your family,
You have to
especially
like
in America.
training as well. You have to enjoy the training.
So how you keep yourself motivated at 60 is a very important question I think people should ask themselves. And how can they keep training something which was interesting in their lives 20 years ago? So
You
it's
have to like the people around you then. If you don't like them, you won't be there.
Yeah, a lot of it's a social thing and fitness thing. Just do it to stay in shape.
Maybe we can have a podcast with him when we're all 60 and 60 something.
I hope so.
None of us
Okay,
are going to be training anymore. When I'm
uh,
60, you guys are going to be like 80, man.
No, man.
No,
I'm,
man,
I'm
we are-
3 years older.
You're
than
at
you.
least 45.
Yes,
yeah.
after the summer in 63rd years. So last thing, what you think about what you knew about twisted jiu-jitsu when initially coming here, and how you think the actually jiu-jitsu is compared to other countries, because we are very far, in my opinion, very far from the real stage, but still we are growing. And yesterday was a very good and big seminar, around 110 people. So what are your
Yesterday was the funniest opening of a seminar I ever saw. When Meissen said that he was expecting huts and goats. You guys have malls here.
yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, that's a tourist
So
attraction.
just to, because sometimes people are trying to compare yourself to something which is far from you,
Yeah.
and you don't appreciate the thing you have. So I always ask these questions, not to make myself or Ivan or Vlad proud or like how to
I
say.
love you, man.
Yeah, I know the massage after.
Yeah,
that.
after that.
But I want to people share their, how to say, your initial expectations when you face the reality. So how you think was before you come to here and what you knew about us. And I think this is the last question.
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't really think too much about it before I came here. Like, I didn't really know what to expect. But obviously, I had seen, like, Kyle seminars, and then Yuri told me as well that the seminars are always really big here. So I was expecting a big seminar. It was even a little bit bigger than I had thought it would be. And then just as far as the level of jiu-jitsu, like we were talking about before, I could see that you guys really focus a lot on the technique and the curriculum here. People are using a lot of Kyle's jiu-jitsu, and I could recognize that from training with him and training with people from our academy. So that was a good surprise as well. So the level of jiu-jitsu is very good, and I've been to a lot of places where the jiu-jitsu level is very, very low. So you guys are definitely up towards the top, and I believe it's because you guys are teaching the curriculum. And yeah, the seminar was great, and the gym was amazing.
Nice. Thank you for having us. And in your time.
Thanks
for
for coming
the
podcast
words.
as well. You love
Thanks
it,
for
but
coming.
still.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
I love
doing
doing
podcasts,
podcasts so much, so it's nothing I would rather be doing than
Yeah.
talking to you guys on a podcast.
Yeah. So that's it.
Let's
Thanks
go eat some
for
eclairs.
yes, eclairs. Now
Okay.
it's eclairs time. Everyone know I'm doing this with everyone, so the eclairs are very important in our
Expected on
jiu-jitsu
Instagram.
seminars.
Yeah.
Expected as usual.
Yeah.
So thank you once again. Thanks everyone watching. That was a huge big comeback. From,
After 3 weeks.
after four and a
weeks
half weeks
rest.
of missing. So I hope it's gonna be interesting, watchable, interesting, and many people will take notes or take something interesting from this conversation. Us.